Well, here's another review video. I'm kind of bummed this time of year. I have a lot of really great movies to show these big outdoor nature things. And yeah, we can't do it. They're big, long DVDs. And we've got these YouTube videos. They're okay. But normally I'd like to go to the movies. And we're just not doing it. So if we can't go to the movies, yeah, okay. Well, here we are. This is what we've got. So Keystone Species is a species that a large number of other species, usually plants and animals is what we talk about, but it could be bacteria and mushrooms and all that, depend upon for survival. So the wolf definitely is a keystone species. It affects, obviously, the population of elk, and those elk carcasses help scavengers and carnivores like bears, eagles, and stuff. And we'll get to that. Hurts coyotes, which helps those other animals, voles, fox, and antelope. So it has this giant cascade down the food web. So this video was decent, showing some of the things that wolves affect beyond what the article did. So the article talked about elks, which allow trees to regrow, and birds and beavers to come back. And beavers in their own right are a keystone species, which is why on the blog I've posted a lot about beavers and their impact. Bison do better with less competition from elk. They don't get hunted as much because they're bigger from wolves, but they can't compete with giant elk herds, so that helps them. And like I said, the wolf kills really help eagles and bears and ravens in the winter. Science Word, I know you're excited for this. So yesterday's Science Word, Wednesday's Science Word was marginal. So it's something found on the edge or close to a lower limit or not as important. So for instance, certain assignments are marginal, like those red YouTube slides are less important. They're fun, they help you learn more, but you don't need them. So milkweeds are often viewed as less important. In fact, they can be harmful to cattle that eat them, and they're not really a crop. The only thing they're really important to that humans might care about is butterflies. But they're also found at the margin or the edge. So a lot of times scientists talk about margin literally mean an edge, like the edge of a paper has a margin. A non-example is something central or important or average or normal. So English and math are central or core to all learning. If you can't understand English or do math, you don't have a chance in science. Science relies heavily on both. All right, our food chains and food web assignment is a Google slide. So you're going to have to pick one of the three habitats. So we have the light blue marine slides, we have the darker blue freshwater slides, and we have the green forest slides. This actually comes from a deck of cards, and we would sit down and play Texas Hold'em style poker, habitat Hold'em, where you get extra points or extra winnings for creating food chains. But we're going to use the cards from the deck. We're going to make a 5-organism food chain in one of the habitats and an 8-organism food web. So my example is based on the desert suit. So 4 suits in a deck of cards, 4 suits here. And it was the harder one to do because to get 5 was tricky. So you have to delete the slides you don't use. So there are going to be 6 slides you're not using in there. Go ahead and delete them. So in the desert, in each of the suits, you have this whom eats whom card. And on the left, we have consumes, or what an organism eats. So if you look up at plants at the top, saguaro and yucca eat nothing. They're plants. And who eats them is on the other side. And so you look at the cougar and the golden eagle near the bottom, they're called top of the food chain. Nobody eats them. Of course, and when they die, a scavenger will, but nobody hunts them and actively turns them into food. So first you want to make a food web. So you want to grab a plant, a producer first. And so I grabbed the yucca and I put it there. And then you want to put a plant eater, but you can't just grab whatever you want. You have to consult back to that chart to see if the things actually eat each other. Sometimes it's surprising what does eat each other and what doesn't. So you start with a producer, then an herbivore, and then it's carnivores all the way down until we get to what's called top of the food chain. You can't see it right here. I apologize for that. And so the yucca gets eaten by the chuckwalla, gets eaten by a scorpion, gets eaten by the roadrunner bird, gets eaten by the cougar. What you want to avoid is two top of the food chain cards at the end. They can't eat each other. So you can't just slap a bunch of carnivores in there and expect it to work. But if you're smart, you can take this food chain and keep all those cards and turn it into a food web. So for the food web, you first want to pick the cards you're going to use and shrink them. You want to shrink them so you have room to make arrows. So I'm going to use the cougar and the golden eagle. I'm going to use the roadrunner and the scorpion. And you can get rid of the ones you're not using. And you can't see it because it's covered up again. The yucca and the saguaro cactus. Now, when I have those 8 cards, then I can spread them out. So in a food web, you want to put your producers at the bottom. We want to keep using the same habitat. So we want to do producers, herbivores, and we have arrows pointing up from the food to what's eating them. And not everything always gets an arrow. So in this one, we're assuming they do. Then we get carnivores that get to eat some of the herbivores. And we have carnivores that might eat the carnivores or the herbivores. So you have arrows coming from multiple levels. And then you might get your top of the food chain, which can be eating from lots of levels, probably not eating from the producers. Unless you talk about black bears. If you're doing the forest deck, black bears are omnivores. They can eat from everything. And so you get all these crazy arrows, which is really hard to do if your cards are big. So you definitely want to shrink your cards and spread them out. Producers, plants on the bottom, top of the food chain on the top. And then you get a messy food web. It should be messy. Now, using Google Slides, the arrows are tricky to manipulate on your iPad. So I did this with a computer. If you're using your iPad, I recommend before you do all your arrows, you just spread out your cards and you take a screenshot. And you take that screenshot and you can either go to Photo Markup or the app called Sketch and draw your arrows. I like having different color arrows from different levels. It helps me keep track of things. I prefer the actual pen to the highlighter. The highlighter gets a little bit too thick. And then that screenshot, once you've manipulated it, dump that into your slide, and then I'll be able to see it. All right, so there's an instructional video there I made a few years ago. Hopefully that helps. That's linked on your last slide. It's a little old. It's 2018, but it shows you how to do this in a little bit more detail. If you get mad at your computer, don't worry, just email me. We can figure things out. And I got this. I apologize for the video being late. I went into school and worked about 12 hours yesterday, grading, making plans for the rest of the year, and bringing Oscar and Carl home. And that was a mess. Pictures coming soon. So be well, and I'll see you when I see you.